I'm going to start by telling you a story, and it involves Dee and I. So you all know that I've been going through the process of starting Dee under saddle, and I've been sharing that adventure with you. And on Tuesday of this week, we went out and had a ride, and it was just your typical average ride. But for whatever reason, at the end of that session, my brain started whirling and I started thinking about whether I was the best person for the job, basically. Now, this didn't come from a place of, being really down on myself or thinking, gosh, I can't do this or anything like that. It really came from a place of consideration. And that consideration was, am I the best person to do this for my horse? Or would it be better for me to maybe send him to someone for a couple of weeks, get them to work with him and maybe get things going in a way that I hadn't yet? Anyway, I marinated on that over the course of the day, and I talked to a couple of friends about it, and I even contacted a trainer to see about availability. And that night I was walking down our back paddocks where our horses are, and I had 2 buckets in my hand, and all of a sudden a little voice popped into my head and it said, Jane, if you really want to do this, you have to double down and actually get to work. And it was really like a light bulb went off in my head at that point. And I realised that I had been, on some level, arguing for my limitations, and that I'd used this idea that perhaps someone was better as a get out of jail free card, if you like. So that every time we had a little bit of a wobble or something didn't quite go to plan, I would defer to this thought process that told me, maybe you're not the best one for the job. As upward cycles of success go, I know that there are times where we're presented with information that hits us with more clarity than others, and for me this was a moment of total clarity, and I realised that I wasn't backing myself. I wasn't cultivating the beliefs that I needed to cultivate in order to be able to get out there and really show up for my horse in the way that I wanted to show up, and show up for myself in the way that I wanted to show up. So I thought about this idea of doubling down, and I was like, well, what's the double down method? What is the methodology behind that? And I came back to my office, I sat down at my desk and I wrote on a piece of paper. I drew a big circle and divided it up into 4 different quadrants. And they are the same quadrants that you see at the start of the all-in pathway. So those quadrants refer to the spiritual element, which is this internal belief that you are supported, just generally supported, and that you're able to trust yourself and your intuition. The emotional part of it, which is really marinating in the feeling of what it is that you want to create. The logical part, which is really having the clarity of, well, what does that look like? What specifically is it that you're wanting to do? And then the physical component, which is, of course, is the consistent showing up and taking action. So all of those things I have melded together in this alchemy that is the double down method. And it's really come through personal process. It's part of this story and something that I'm practicing and that I wanted to share with you all now. This whole method centres around a central ideology that says I am no longer available to believe that my dreams are unavailable to me. And as part of that, what we're going to throw ourselves into is a daily practice. I've outlined these practices for you in several different ways, and you can pick and choose what it is that you want to apply, but I have been doing all of them. So the first part is a workbook called Clarity, and that's where I really invite you to understand what it is you want and perhaps what it is that's getting in the way. From there, we're moving into a daily practice, which involves a mantra meditation that goes for just under 10 minutes, and then a breath exercise and a journaling exercise that follows on for that. Now, those 2 things really relate to the spiritual or the intuitive component, and also the emotional and the feeling component. And that's based on the idea that we actually have to get ahead of ourselves. That in order to create what it is that we want to experience on the outside, we have to line everything up in terms of our thoughts, our feelings and our emotions, and then obviously our actions. The last part then is really deciding what action you need to take on a daily basis. And there's a calendar there that goes for 31 days that you can use as a challenge to mark off each day sequentially that you've dedicated yourself to this practice. This is your invitation then to double down with me. The first part is grabbing your clarity workbook and really deciding what it is you want and how it is this is going to roll out. The second is dedicating yourself to your morning practice. So doing the mantra meditations, going through the breath work and doing the journaling. And then the final part is really deciding how you're going to take this and action it. So looking at the calendar, plotting it out for yourself, and then marking off the days that you have successfully followed through with doubling down.